It's a pleasant winter's afternoon. Jenny and her two boys are driving home after a Saturday morning rugby game. Everything says it would be on any other day. But what if, just for a moment, Jenny is distracted by something? Let's see what could so easily happen.
Mommy, what's it?
2-year-old Toby in the back seat is badly shaken, but he is unhurt. His 13-year-old brother Jack is not so lucky. The impact of the crash has shattered his fourth vertebrae, leaving him paralysed. Worse still, the boy's mum, Jenny, has severe injuries. The isolated location of the crash means that she'll die before paramedics can reach her. How do you explain this tragedy to Jenny's family? Who's responsible for the misery unleashed by this brief, violent episode? Was it really her fault? Given what's happened, pointing the finger seems both a waste of time and grotesque. Surely there's a better way to understand this, and, more importantly, a safe system would have saved Jenny's life and freed Jack from his life in a wheelchair. When every element of a safe system is strong and working well, the chances of death or serious injury decrease greatly. If we work backwards now, we can see how this particular tragedy might have been averted. If the speed limit on the road was an enforced 80 kilometres an hour instead of 100, or if Jenny had been driving slower, her car would have hit the pole 20 kilometres an hour slower, or she might not have hit it at all. That would have given her and her boys some survival room.
If there had been a rumble strip along the edge line of that road, then that would have alerted Jenny to the fact that she was drifting out of her traffic lane, at which point she could have had the opportunity to correct her path. If there had been a wider shoulder, somewhere in the order of 1 metre, then Jenny would have had time to correct her path before she drifted into the gravel and lost control.
We could ask ourselves, what if Jenny's car had a 4 or 5 star safety rating? So unlike the car behind me that doesn't even have airbags, a car with a higher safety rating will have airbags, crumple zone. It would have likely had curtain airbags that prevent the occupants' heads from coming into contact with the A-pillars or the windows inside the car. We'll have electronic stability control that may have prevented the crash from occurring in the first place. If you couple that with a lower speed before the collision occurs, it means the crash is just that much more survivable for everyone.
Here's what happens to a modern 5-star car in a head-on crash. Airbags deploy and the passenger cell stays intact. Compare that to a 3-star car. This is actually a little safer than Jenny's, but still the passenger compartment starts to collapse, putting the driver at risk of severe chest and leg injuries. The windscreen pops out and the dashboard is forced back into the passenger space. To see how far things have come, look what happens to a supposedly rock-solid 1959 Chevrolet. And how its modern counterpart fares in the same crash. If the car had been fitted with electronic stability control, it would probably have detected the skid and automatically applied the brakes to individual wheels and brought itself back into line.
In the end, the pole is what killed Jenny. That power pole was very close to the edge of the road. It gave little room for recovery if you drift out of your traffic lane. If the pole had have been shifted well back off the road, if it had have been undergrounded, then Jenny would have simply gone through the fence and into the paddock in that situation. And Jenny probably would have survived.
That's a total of 6 different risk factors eliminated from a single crash, each one reducing the risk of serious injury or death. If all that was done, Jenny would be alive, Her son would be back playing footy again next week, and her toddler Toby would grow up knowing his mum.